Welcome to today's episode of Diagnostic Guru. I'm delighted to introduce you to Carrie Haverty. Carrie is a board-certified genetic counselor and president-elect of the National Society of Genetic Counselors. Woohoo! Can't wait to dig in on that one.
Yeah.
She started her career working in high-risk prenatal care with a focus on providing broad access to new diagnostic technologies and led clinical teams at Massachusetts General Hospital, or MGH, as we like to say in our world, and Sutter Health. Her direct clinical experience has served as the foundation for leading-edge product development and successful commercialization at top women's health companies like Counsel, Myriad, and Mirvie. In her recent role, she's the vice president of product at Mirvie. She directs the development and management of the company's product portfolio, which is focused on the delivery of proactive, personalized, and predictive maternal care. Welcome, Carrie. Thanks for coming today.
Thanks so much. Really pleasure to be here.
Great. Well, listen, as we talked about, I gave you a little bit of woohoo there in the beginning for a huge achievement in your recent president-elect. But I'm sure there's other successes that you would like to share, around your career. And what's one that stands out most to you that you're most proud of that you would like to share with any of those listening today?
Yeah, I think actually the transition from moving from a full clinical role to product development, product management has been just a major highlight for my career. I loved the time I spent in clinic doing direct patient care. It's such a huge privilege. I was never burnt out on that. A little burnt out on the bureaucracy and things surrounding it, but being able to take all those years of insights, the thousands of patients that I spoke with and engaged with and learned from, and then taking all those learnings and applying them to product development and building and launching and making accessible products that I know will best serve them and serve the care teams that take care of them, since I was a part of that care team for so long. That's a proud moment for me, and I think just exciting way to sort of extend and expand upon not only clinical role but specifically genetic counselor role.
I think there's 2 points I want to highlight just based on your experience and your background. Is one, you're a good communicator and you can translate, and with that you're able to translate the product to everybody, but also you understand what the patient needs. And a lot of times we see products fall short when they don't understand what the patient actually needs. So
Absolutely.
it's a unique skill set to have. So kudos to you for
Thanks.
crossing the line and now working on the product side, which we'll dig into a little bit more later.
Yeah, sounds good.
So let's talk about your recent transition. Congratulations again on being selected as president for the National Society of Genetic Counselors. That's a great honor, very reputable organization. I can only imagine the stress, but also the reward that comes with that responsibility. Could you tell me why it's important to you, why women leaders should hold leadership roles like these in their organizations or other organizations?
Yeah, I think, I mean, we've got to be at the table, right? And even in a organization like NSGC that has a lot of women members, it still is important for women to be in the lead there as well, because we're serving our membership and being an example to them. I know that I certainly, up until very recently, never even considered the possibility that I could become president of NSGC. It was either not on my radar because I just didn't have the bandwidth to do that much volunteerism with my little kids or, other challenging times in my career. But I have that time and space and drive now, and I have enough experience. I think I have skills and value to bring to the organization. And it's an organization that I've really benefited from myself over the last 25 years of my career. And so being able to kind of give back and stay connected to a community that's really important to me is important. And it's true in lots of organizations, right? We need women at all of the tables. Whether we're talking about a company or a medical center or a nonprofit or a government agency or a professional organization like NSGC, women are a big voice, have a certain perspective, have different lived experience, are impacted differently by things, and we need to be part of that leadership and that solution. And I think also are very good leaders. Women are excellent leaders. We're good communicators. We're good collaborators. All the things that make for excellent leadership. And so it's a lot easier to think about doing it too if you see other people doing it. So I'm hopeful to be an example to others in the future too.
Well, I couldn't agree more. I mean, think about it. For those of us who have families, we're CEOs usually of our
Yeah,
families,
yeah.
right? Not just our nuclear family, but all the other levels that come
Yes,
each generation, right? And it's almost like a torch or a baton passage of right. But I also think it comes from the top. Who's the CEO? What's the culture that's being driven in the
absolutely.
organization, right? And if they don't believe in equal opportunity and access and voices and a place at the table, regardless of who you are,
Yeah.
then it's really not, well, it's not a place for me, and I'm sure not a place for you, but
Right.
it's
And
hard
it's super
to,
important because we can't just rely on other women to do that, right? I mean, I want women at half the seats, right? At the table, the board level, et cetera, et cetera. But we need men who are there too to be mentors, to be sponsors, to be advocates, to
yeah,
stand up. Because if we're just relying on ourselves to solve these problems, it's never going to get solved because we're only half of the population. So we need the advocates and the allies from men too. And I've been very fortunate to work for some amazing male leaders who have been really excellent sponsors, who've given me opportunities and chances and through sponsorship and mentorship that I wouldn't have had if I had waited for a woman to do that for me, because the women weren't there, and B, they're there's only so many women. We need
yeah.
everybody to be part of that. So I'm always especially heartened when I see that kind of support and leadership coming from men.
Me too. I've had some amazing as well, men leaders. I mean, two of my former PIs learned a lot from. Actually, I have another mentor, an older gentleman who I called today for advice on something, advice. So I've got
Yeah,
all walks of life on my speed dial. So it's super important on the diversity there. We've talked a lot about leadership, and I'm sure you've talked about it a little bit, facing challenges as a woman leader. Can you kind of touch upon some of the biggest challenges you faced, or you think others are facing today that may be a little bit different than what you experienced, as you're coming up through the ranks?
yeah. I think that one of the challenges is always just that people say you got to see it to believe it or to be it, and I think that's true. That's true. Yes, and also you have to move forward with faith and confidence and optimism. That you can do these things, that we can be good leaders, and that our leaders are good leaders for us. It does require some faith and optimism, and sometimes that's hard. Like in the macro environment affects that, and when there's other things pressing in on it, it feels like our worlds get smaller, or they're just less expansive, and that makes it harder, I think. And that feeling kind of ebbs and flows over time, depending again on what's going on in your personal life, and what's going on kind of at a macro level. It influences things too, and I think it's more of like just being conscious of that and being aware of that moment and how those things are affecting you, and affecting your leaders too, and affecting your colleagues or your teams. People are working around us, and we're more connected and yet more separate in a lot of ways than ever before. It was different when it was like all my relationships, professional relationships, were personal relationships, like people I'd met, people I'd done something with, I directly communicated with. And now I feel like I have a lot of connections that are equally valid and equally strong, frankly, but people that I've never met in person before. And that for a lot of my career was not true. And that's the reality now, is that there is that additional distance. So I think forging those connections, maintaining that network, and having it be a authentic connection, an authentic network, and not transactional, is a critical aspect to continuing to develop ourselves as leaders, and the people around us as not only as leaders, but just as excellent colleagues and
Yeah.
teammates.
Yeah. I love the authenticity. I tell my kids that all the time, like be yourself. Don't let others make you not feel like you're a good person. Be
Yeah,
kind, kindness with strength. Because I
yeah,
do feel like today we have less and less humans, we're social beings, right? We're social mammals. And today we have less and less interactions with each other. But let's look a little bit at, your pivot. You talked about that's one of the biggest, successes in your career, coming from traditional training and industry, completely different than what you're doing today. What was your inspiration to leave the patient and work more directly with the development of the product for the patient?
yeah. It was just, there were so many exciting things happening in technological advances in the mostly in the diagnostic space, uh, and it was just very exciting to see all these things happening, and very frustrating to not be able to bring them to my patients,
Mm.
and to think, this could have helped this person or that person, or the products that I was able to access for my patients, weren't quite what I wanted them to be, and there just were opportunities for improvement. Like I said, I really loved direct patient care. I was managing a terrific team of genetic counselors. We were growing, and that was fantastic. But it just felt like I had maxed out the difference I could make there, beyond the individual difference in the individual patient's lives, which is super valuable and important. But I just didn't feel like I could make any bigger systemic changes. I was operating kind of in a bureaucratic cement of a major healthcare system, like we all do, and I just wanted to have a different, bigger impact. And so moving kind of upstream of that made sense. I spent some time talking to anybody that I knew that had left clinical care and was doing kind of non-traditional roles. Some were doing like medical science liaison roles, some were doing like clinical operations roles, like managing studies and data. Some were doing product management. Some were doing education or peer research. So I just talked to a lot of people, and again, from my network of folks that I knew, and asked them, like, what do you do in a day? What's your job like, et cetera. And then I started applying for roles, and I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do exactly. I just knew I wanted to have an impact differently. And so I applied for different types of roles: ClinOps, Med Affairs, and product. And the product one, just, I was like in love the second I went to, this was at Council, the second I went to that interview, that it was the company, it was the people, it was the type of job, it was that particular role. All of it was just, I was like, I remember leaving the interview and literally like crossing my fingers as I was walking to the car in the parking lot going, oh my God, I hope I get that job. And the other jobs, I was like, oh, that was fun, that was interesting. And this was like, I was just like, I know I'm going to be devastated if I don't get this job. And I got the job, and, credit to a male leader who gave me a shot, who was like, yeah, she's never done product management. I mean, as I was preparing for this job interview as a product manager, I literally Googled, what is product management? Because I had never worked with a product manager before. We didn't have product managers in the
Yeah.
hospital. I didn't know, but I had confidence that there was transferable skills. And so once I understood what the role was, I felt like, oh, I can do that. I can learn that. And if I have some support, and I did, I had a great boss who was the CSO, and yeah. And, we made it work. It was messy. I was building a product without knowing how to build products exactly. I was like learning how to uh, communicate in GitHub with a bunch of developers and stuff that I, again, had never done in the hospital before.
Yeah.
But I knew I had those insights, like you were saying. I knew what patients needed. I knew what clinicians needed. I knew what was realistic in terms of implementation into the clinic. Like I remember in one of the first meetings I was in, at one point there was an engineer. We had barcodes on the tubes,
Yeah.
or two tubes that we needed, and the thing was like, well, if we can have a different barcode on each tube, then it's going to be easier to track, and that would help us out in the lab, and et cetera, et cetera. And there were these tiny little like stickers with like 15-digit barcode on them. And with numbers written, human readable numbers, and then a machine readable barcode. And I was like, are you really going to ask like a busy, like 21-year-old medical assistant who's got 3 people in the waiting room to like write down 2 15-digit numbers correctly, for every one of these, or to even just stick a sticker on twice? It's like they got to be the same. We'll figure it out when it comes into the lab. And they're like, oh, well, we can give them we can give them a barcode scanner. That'll be no problem. Make it even easier for them than the stickers. And I was like, let me tell you about the computer system that I was using when I left the clinic, and how much access I had to like use new technology like a barcode scanner, or like, no, everything's locked down. You don't get to upload or download anything. You don't get to plug anything into a computer. You don't get to do any of that in a hospital system. And I was like, oh, it's like, this is just a different world, and you have to understand that ecosystem, that environment, to design products that will not only work, but be used. Like a product that's not used, it doesn't matter how well it works, it's a terrible product. And so, and there are lots of good examples of bad products winning the market because they got used, and whatever reason they matched up better logistically or workflow wise or whatever. So implementation and those logistics really trumps everything. You need high quality diagnostics and therapeutics, but they need to be usable. And that's where those insights, I think, were really helpful. And so, long story short, I had the faith of a leader, a male leader, who had confidence I could learn the nuts and bolts of how to build and manage and launch a product, because he had a lot of faith in the degree of those insights. It's a little bit of a hack to have those insights after all those years of experience in the clinic.
Well, that's great that he had the will and the courage, to be different, to think outside the box, not check the requirements, and see in you that you could fill those requirements, even if you didn't come. We need more people like that. And
100%.
I mean, you need that one person, right?
It's like, you can do this.
Yeah.
I will help you.
One person. Well, let's get into sort of the gut of what this whole diagnostic guru is about. We really like to talk to leaders like you in the diagnostic community, strong women in science, and give us your one good, your one bad, and your one ugly.
So good is happening right now, I think. So I'm at Mirvie, and we are a diagnostic company focused in women's health, particularly right now in pregnancy health. We use cell-free RNA to develop classifiers or tests to predict pregnancy complications months in advance of clinical symptoms or signs. And we just launched our first product. So as a company, Mirvie was founded in 2018, but we just launched. It takes time to develop, to do good science, good clinical development takes time and investment. So now in 2025, we've launched our first product, Encompass, and it is a predictive blood test for preeclampsia. And it's optimized specifically for preterm preeclampsia, which is what causes the most morbidity and mortality, costs to the healthcare system, the most kind of trauma to families. And really, there doesn't exist a good solution for that right now. It's just a very reactive space. So even though preeclampsia is pretty common, about 1 in 12 pregnancies or 8% have preeclampsia, and that number is going up every year pretty significantly. Even though it's so common, we just wait and see. We just watch and say, okay, well, we'll see you back in a month. We'll see you back in 2 weeks. We'll check your blood pressure. We'll check your, protein in your urine and see if you develop symptoms of preeclampsia, and then we'll diagnose you. But the opportunity to get ahead of that, identify who's biologically truly at high risk, and institute preventive care plans is exactly what we're doing and what we're excited about, because it's such a huge problem to solve. So I would say that's good because it's a huge unmet need. It's got significant impact on whole families, not just the women and their babies. And it's really cool technology using RNA. I've done a lot of DNA in my life, but RNA is sort of feels like the next generation. It's very exciting to be working on that, and just an amazing group of people, just super passionate. So yeah, so launching Encompass and beginning to see that grow and take off is definitely good. It's sort of also just having it be the first product for a company. You don't get to do that very often in a career too. So that's also exciting. So all of that's great. Let's see, what was it? The bad is probably, again, I'll go back to leadership. A bad experience was having bad leadership. It was a particular team that was pretty young and inexperienced and just held things too close to the vest. Like there wasn't enough transparency or vulnerability this was in a tiny company, like 20 people. Still, it just felt like there were secrets all the time. It wasn't just like open, like, here's where we're at. Here's where we're at in our fundraising. Here's where we're at in our burn. Here's, here are the challenges we're facing, or here are the wins that we're getting. And so I was like just below the C-suite, and it was like pulling teeth to get information out. And so I just never felt trusted, and also they never benefited from my insights either, right? So it just felt very
afraid to
closed
speak
off
up in those scenarios,
Yeah, I mean, it was just closed door, like, well, okay, so that didn't feel great, and I think led to just less effective advances in our product development and commercialization as an organization. Nice people, good ideas, just kind of a little bit, I don't know if it's like old school or just, it wasn't right for the size and stage company we were at or the kind of people that were working there. So I think it was mostly inexperience, which makes me look for really experienced leadership. Part of what contributes to the good at Mirvie is that we've got a great founding team and leadership team that's experienced.
Fantastic.
And then the ugly is not necessarily bad. It was just ugly. And it was that development of first product at council. We got it done. But it was messy. And, I didn't know what I was doing. I was learning, there are always challenges. I remember at one point we had a launch date and we were waiting for our kit boxes to arrive. They were on a slow boat from China and they hadn't arrived when I wanted them to, and, to be able to get them out to customers, et cetera. And I was kind of freaking out. And I remember one of our scientists, who's now the CTO at Myriad, one of our engineers there, he was like, Carrie, what's the worst thing? We'll just throw them in a Ziploc bag and send them out, and then it'll be fine. And I was like, okay. But it was a reminder of embrace the messy. Don't let perfect get in the way of good. Just get it done. And if it has to be in an ugly Ziploc bag instead of your beautiful box that you just signed and ordered, that's fine. It still gets done. And if we allow ourselves to pursue that perfection or what we want it to be or what we think it should be, and don't engage with reality and be really pragmatic about stuff, we miss opportunities. We're going to miss, timing on things, and it just it doesn't serve people well. So I always think of Kevin when he said that, because it was just a very pragmatic, here's the worst thing. And I was like, okay, you're right. We're just gonna get this done. And the boxes showed up, and we spent the whole night before in the fulfillment center, like assembling, because they're all flat. So I had to like build and assemble boxes. So it's one of my early product experiences, like launching it as like, here it is, and we got the product. And I just like spent 4 hours in the middle of the night, folding boxes to ship out. But that's what startup life too. So
best experience though. I mean, think about really building the product.
Yeah. So I would say like ugly or messy is now my superpower. Like I will lean into that all day long because I know that that's where the magic really happens is when you're kind of on that tip of the spear and you really are having to make tough decisions, but that's where you get to good decisions too.
But look at that. Your ugly turned into a good because you learned from it. So we always need moments like that, right?
You need to have a certain level of optimism to work in product too.
Absolutely. The sky isn't always falling, or the glass is half full, not half empty. I almost said half empty.
There's usually a way forward is the thing. So, it's like that didn't work, fast fail, let's make something. Well, that didn't work, we'll try something else, keep going.
Yeah. I love stuff like that though. That's why I've worked at probably so many startups.
Yeah. I mean, I keep doing this, making the same choice too. So I clearly am into that too. But it can be ugly. Like it can be ugly because you just don't.
Got to be okay with that though. Some people can't do that. They really can't.
Yeah, it's not for everyone, and that's fine. Like I wouldn't be happy with like very rigorous, like, we know exactly what's going to happen. Everyone follows the same SOP. We check the boxes and we get like, that's great for a lot of folks. They're very happy. That would drive me nuts. But
I wish I liked that. That maybe my life wouldn't be so crazy. But
I know. So anyway, for me, ugly is like,
good. Ugly's
the
good
stuff.
I like that. Well, with this, I think your experiences, you've worked for some very big reputable companies that were startups at the time, but are now, are the game changers in the industry, especially in genomics. Where do you see the lab or the healthcare or science biotech space in these fields moving? Do you think they are becoming more inviting for women, or do you think it's kind of a slow progression?
I mean, it's never fast enough, but it is definitely more inviting to women. I mean, I remember, I think it was 6 months or so that I'd been working at Council before I even saw another person in the women's restroom with me. Like it was always, I was just alone in there. Like there weren't enough women there to like run into another woman in the restroom. And it was so rare to be a parent even. It was like very young, very male. I mean, the first Mother's Day that I worked there, I got a card signed by all the executives because I think I was like the only mom in the company. So it was just like, okay, I'm probably the only one here over 35 too. But it was just different vibe. But that's definitely changing and quite significantly, which is great. I think that's. I wish it could be faster, of course. I wish there was more people at the board level. I wish there was more people at the executive level. But I think that's happening. It just needs to happen more. And we need men to be part of that solution.
Yes. No, and that's why, I don't know if you know of the organization called 50 Women in Boards.
Yeah. Yes. So that's a great example.
Yeah. Yes. I joined that. I go to a lot of their events here.
Love it.
And the gentleman, his name's Byron, he's a head of like the NASDAQ board governance committee. He's a huge proponent of meeting that pinnacle because I think today it's still only around 20%.
Something like that. It's different if you're the higher up you go on.
Like the big corporate ones, right? Like forget it. But the more mid to smaller cap. So it's been really eye-opening for me to be a part of that organization and learning some really impressive women. I mean, their background. Makes me feel like, wow, what have I been doing the past 25 years?
I know, but isn't it great? It's always so wonderful to be in a room, virtual or otherwise, with people that, I love it when I'm like, wow, I am like the dumbest person here. And that is awesome. That feels great because I am learning so much and I'm kind of fangirling on everyone and I'm, making all these great connections and, it just is incredible. So Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and that's Women in Bio has a like board development program for
Yeah.
women. There's a lot of things like that happening. It still feels a lot like women are doing the lift though. So hearing examples like what you're talking about is great, and we just need more of that.
No,
Yeah,
I agree. I've looked into both of those. Well, unfortunately, this has been amazing. I mean, unfortunately, we're coming to an end, but fortunately, this has been an amazing conversation with you. And you
super
already
fun.
probably answered my last question, which is, what do you think your superpower is?
Oh gosh.
Is it
Okay. Yeah.
ugly?
I mean, I think managing the gray
Yeah,
is definitely one of
love it.
my top skills. Is I am very comfortable in the gray. Just ambiguity. We don't know. We got to make decisions without having all of the information at hand that we would
Mhm.
maybe wish we had. And I think that is a direct result of my training and clinical experience
Mhm.
because that is what we do as genetic counselors a lot, is that we are helping families and patients make decisions, interpret, incorporate information that isn't always black and white. I know people love to think genetics is super like definitive, DNA black or white. And of course, the more you know about it, the more you realize not at all.
Yeah.
And we help them to incorporate that information such as it is, and move forward, with their care, with decision making, with their adjustment, whatever it is. And that's a really transferable skill, to other areas, including leadership, including product management, including commercialization of products, development planning, all of that, because there is no set SOP with a checklist. If you do these things, I guarantee you're going to have a successful product that insurers will pay for. There's just so much uncertainty in that whole process. And if that is uncomfortable, then it's hard to do this sort of work. But both be a genetic counselor and work in product and market development, things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's one of my superpowers. And then a related one is I'm super pragmatic. Like I'm very good at just being like, well, that's not going to work. Next, like
I love
that's
that. Get down to
just
business.
very, very pragmatic. I don't spend a lot of time fussing over things that just aren't to be. I think the combination of those two things, and they kind of go hand in hand, I think,
Yeah.
have definitely contributed to my
To your
career
success.
success so far.
Yeah. I mean, they're like a yin and yang, really, because in the world we live in, there's all sorts of regulatory and documents and protocols that we're supposed to follow, but it's very black and white. And here we are developing these de novo novel based technologies that don't fit that black and white anymore.
Correct. Yeah,
And so you have
absolutely.
to learn how to abide by that black and white, but living in this ambiguity and gray.
Yes.
And so that's a perfect combination, for somebody like yourself
Yeah,
and
that's
you.
good observation on, yeah, advancing technologies outstripping some of our um, frameworks for thinking about them.
Yeah. Well, we came full circle, I feel like, because we started with your traditional training, and really here we are. That's really what has helped you to be who you are today and why you're
I think
successful.
so.
And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think having somebody like you be a president of an organization to teach other young women and men who are you're seeing more and more men becoming
Yes, absolutely. Yep. Yep.
uh,
Yep.
show them the way. It's not just about the patient in the clinic, which is super important, but there's so much more out there for
Yeah.
them.
We're
So,
all part of that ecosystem. We're all contributing to
yeah,
that patient care. And um, yeah, we just need to keep working together and keep patient centered in all of that,
absolutely. Patient comes first, bottom
for sure.
line. Well,
For
thank you
sure.
so much, Carrie. This has been an awesome conversation. I really enjoyed it. I love your enthusiasm. I'm super excited about the product that you guys have there making it. I didn't realize how many women are inflicted with preeclampsia. So we
Yeah.
got to get the word out more and more.
Yep,
And that,
absolutely. Yeah, encompasstest.com. But yeah, you'll hear more. You'll hear more to come.
good,
We've got more papers coming
good
and
for you.
exciting stuff. So thank you so much. This has been super fun, and I really love um, the opportunity to be able to share a little bit about my journey.